how does it feel to make art? This is one of those questions that reach the edge of language. We just don't have a word for this experience. Perhaps we can't have a word for it. Perhaps it's too abstract, too hard to dissect and describe. But language is ready to deal with its own limitations. Whenever we don't have a symbol for something, we can use metaphor. And metaphor is particularly useful when it comes to emotions. Of course, we all know anger and joy and fear, but we also know that each of those emotions have thousands of different variations. It would be crazy to name them all. It would be too much. So, we use metaphor. Silent, cold anger is different from bursting, volcanic anger. And how about more complex emotions? Jealousy, pride, awkwardness. And how about the feeling of being totally submerged in the process of making art? A very specific sensation. You're not even there anymore. You're not part of the picture. It's just the art casting its own spell, and you happen to be the vessel this time around. Today we're gonna explore Blue Period, a show that created an interesting and, in my opinion, very relevant, very truthful style of visual metaphor to portray art making. Visual metaphor is something we should talk about more often here on the channel. What sort of art thought invites what kind of imagery? Why is the floating islands such a prevalent motif in fantasy? Why is Art Nouveau and Art Deco so present in pop culture, even though they're not very present in architecture anymore? Why is the color purple such a common choice to represent corruption, even though when things go bad, they generally go green, or black, or grey? I don't know the answer to those questions, but I want to. I want to understand what makes interesting art interesting. I want to understand why some worlds really capture my attention, and that's the whole point of this series of videos here, the Worldbuilding Tower. Together we explore one really cool piece of world building that exists out there in the world, and from this we extract a lesson that everybody is invited to try your own hand, to create your own world, to write your own scenes. And maybe, if we're lucky, if we're thorough in our research and our passion, we will learn how to create incredible worlds, just like the ones we like to read about. Here's something new and exciting. At the end of this video here, I'm gonna announce this channel's first ever writing competition with Blue Period prizes, a collaboration with Diamond Comics. And the entry is just a regular exercise that you folks know and love. The exercise that you would mayhaps do anyway, now might get you a prize, so stick around for more information. With that said, let's talk about art. But first, a little personal context. I'm a hedonist. Not in the sense that I will abandon my responsibilities, but in the sense that I do spend a lot of time and attention and energy in the pursuit of pleasure. I come from a very pleasure-valuing society to begin with, but even in the context of that culture, I'm the artsy party host. I've been talking about this with all sorts of people all around the world for years. I think I'm safe to say that I have an above average amount of delight in my life. I have sipped the nectar of the gods. I'm introducing all of that because despite the revelry, the debauchery, the thrills, and the spiritual revelations, I still think that true art making is one of the most pleasant things that a human body can experience. It doesn't happen every day. It definitely doesn't happen every time I try. And getting to that point requires preparation. Studying art, thinking about art, asking artistic questions to your artsy friends and exploring them with curiosity and tenacity. If you do it just right, one day you'll sit in front of the page or the canvas or the piano and you'll be engulfed by art. You'll be devoured by art. You'll feel you're a mere conduit to something much bigger than yourself. And my, is it pleasant? My goodness. If you've ever finished writing a good chapter, smirk on your face, you look out of the window and realize it's already dark outside, then you know what I'm talking about. I can't guarantee that you will also experience that, as we've discussed 1,000 times here in the channel. Art is not a universal experience. Whatever works for you or however your body will feel about it might not be exactly the same experience as I'm having, and there's nothing wrong with any of us, that's okay. But we're probably not alone. There's a huge chance that other people have the same experience as us, even if it's not all people. Anyway, I find this powerful sensation of art making that I experience so enchanting, so enticing, that I decided to write a novel in which every single protagonist is an artist of some sort. Or maybe the book decided to write itself through me? A couple of months ago, I decided to watch Blue Period after watching that really cool lines in motion video about it. If you haven't watched that one, you should definitely give it a shot, link in the doobly-doo. And Blue Period is an animation about painting and the craft of painting, which is not my craft, but when I saw the way they portrayed the art making process, the creative process, I recognized a kindred spirit. This is how it feels to me. I feel like I'm being swept away. I feel there's a violet fire inside of me raging to get out. I feel my hands are turning into galactic chameleon tongues, searching the universe for the right words to put on the page. And I need metaphor. Because, of course, those things are not exactly what's happening in the room, but they are how it feels when art happens. Those metaphors is what I try to write about, and it's just so cool to see somebody drawing and animating this same experience. One of the most interesting things about Blue Period is that sometimes the main character is very focused on technique, or just not giving the full attention to the core of the art he is making. And in those scenes there's no visual allegory. The scenes just look like somebody painting. Then, when he really reaches the fountain of purpose, the crux of his art, then the walls are swept away and colors go crazy. Let's have a look at 4 quick scenes, 2 of each kind. I'm first going to briefly introduce you to how the scene looks like, and then we're going to have a look at what the main character, Yaguchi, is thinking about. And here's the first one. It looks very much like an art class, right? No pyrotechnics, no moments of dreamlike action. So what's Yaguchi's internal dialogue here? I've drawn plaster figures twice. This is really not easy. The human face is a combination of complex shapes. If you fix one part, another becomes weird. What's this? The position of the left eye is a bit strange. Interesting. We don't see him making art here, just practicing art. Which is evidently a crucial part of the art process. Just not that moment of intense revelation. It is the necessary preparation for that. Now let's peek into the other side of the curtain. It starts more or less like the first one. It looks like practice. But notice how this is about to escalate. There's something going on in Yaguchi's mind. He's learning how to draw from his emotions. And it peaks. When Yaguchi weeps here, we don't even know if he's actually crying or if that's just how it feels like. Let's have a look at the text, and I organize it in 3 parts, each representing an increase in the level of visual metaphor. I can't do art like Yotasuke, Kuwana, or Hashida. But no one else can do my art either. I didn't even have to do art. What do you know about me, Yotasuke? I'm betting everything on this right now. This is all I have. That's right. My engine is exploding. I'm scared and terrified. I'm scared to death. But more than that, I want them to bow down. I'll kill them all with my art. I'll do anything for that. Cool! But in both those scenes, Yaguchi was still pretty new to this whole universe. Now, let's skip ahead, when he's a little more experienced. Once more, this scene here is exactly what you would expect to see in a nude model session. In this case, Yaguchi is late. He doesn't have that much time to finish his test, so he needs to consider technical aspects, like drawing time. We get shots showing what Yaguchi is paying attention to, and we get to hear how his brain is dealing with this creative challenge. Here's the text. I wanted to proceed in the order of theme, composition, and depiction. Then I'd risk running out of time. Thus, I have no choice but to finalize the theme while painting. So far, the theme is nudity represents true colors, and the main focus is undoubtedly the nude. I want the nude to be the place I like the most in this artwork. So how do I make it attractive then? Adding the paint to create intensity, but I don't have time to do anything like that. In that case, I'll make the nude by subtraction. This method could save a lot of time. Moreover, using this method to show the skin on the canvas, I can also express that nudity represents true colors. It's clear that Yaguchi is not completely immersed in the theme and the purpose of his artwork. He has a time limit and he needs to work with it. This is not an artist doing full-blown art. This is a student doing a test that involves art. What would this internal dialogue be then, if it was about the art? Let's have a look at probably Blue Period's most iconic scene. A little preparation here and there, and he starts. As he explores the nuances of his theme in his mind, the world around him seems to respond. He's not in Kansas anymore, he's enraptured by the art making. His imagination is running wild. He's feeling that ultimate feeling, that pleasant hurricane of art I mentioned at the start of the video. So what is he thinking about as we see all of this? Bonds. In my mind, bonds can take many shapes. Some bonds are delicate, like strings. Some bonds hurt me, like blades. The shape is changing constantly. With passion, the surrounding shapes may be affected. Every time it gets hit, it gets stronger. To me, perhaps bonds are more like metal. You see? In this scene, Yaguchi was exclusively focused on his theme. He was in the eye of the storm of his art making. And small wonder it is the scene that looks the best in the entire first season of the show. This is how art feels to me too. Not necessarily like sparks, but like mist, like starlight, like a lion's roar, or the smell of moss. And when I'm there, where Yaguchi was, when art is happening through me, it's as if nothing else exists. I'm barely human. Unsurprisingly, just after this moment we explored, when Yaguchi finally steps back from his creative process, this is what he thinks. I'm not really sure about it, but somehow I kind of feel like I'm being sucked into my art. I get you, Yaguchi. I get ya. Can we draw inspiration from this portrayal of the creative process? Can we also make our own imaginative visual metaphors? Let's give it a try. Don't forget that today's exercise comes with the competition with prizes. Would you like to get a Blue Period manga delivered to your door? Stay tuned. To start this challenge, we need to create an artist, a character with a good reason to engage with this moment of creation. As we've seen with Blue Period, the character doesn't need to be a professional artist or anything. It can be an amateur if you would rather. Now that I think of it, the character doesn't really need to make art per se. I think any creative endeavor could work here. The character could make a robot. But you know what? I'm drawing inspiration from Blue Period. I'm gonna stick to the artist, but any art is fine. Music, filmmaking, poetry, breakdancing, all is valid. Next, we need to create a metaphor to convey how this moment of creation feels. And I'm not talking about the moments of practice. Let's focus on those moments where it feels like the art is flowing out of the character's fingers. Let's focus on that most pleasant, most divine creation moment. But if it felt to Yaguchi like sparks were coming out of his brush, and it feels to me like I'm free falling into a desert, how will it feel to our characters? What's the unique way we'll choose to represent this super complex emotional state? And since we're in the medium of writing, we don't need to use visual metaphor alone. I think the visuals are super important here, but we can use the other senses. Hearing, touching, smelling. Finally, once we gave it a thought, let's put that on the page. Let's write a scene that shows our character's internal dialogue. What is it thinking? How is he feeling? And that also incorporates those allegories we just created. And with that, we go to the next, but not last. This time we have a competition. I'm so excited. The next part of the video, which is my take on this exercise, evidently not a right answer or anything, just one out of infinite possibilities for this exercise, just one example of what could be done with those rules here. Let's talk art. Okay, this time I will dive right into it, and then later I'll add some comments, okay? The beach, exposed as it was to the elements, was the place where I felt the safest. Not that day, though. The smell of salt and the afternoon sun didn't greet me like companions, but challengers. My nest had been cracked open. I felt naked. Where am I gonna go now? I thought. I hugged my lower legs and pressed my face hard against my knees. With my eyes closed, the voracious wind battering against my skin grew somehow stronger. Hungry gusts made my shirt flap around loudly, like a caravel sail ripped apart by a storm. With no chance of finding peace, my imagination created its own tempest. One intrusive thought shoved another as my mind's crew shouted, their voices muffled by the brainwaves crashing against the hull. Where can I go? The gale pushed my shirt hard, trying to kite me and my inner ship away, or at least roll us enough so that we'd sink into sand and despair. I thought about the sounds of 1,000 shirts like mine being forced at the same time. a cotton cacophony, almost alive, but not like an animal, more like a swarm growing wings and legs. I thought about having a longer, wider body so that the wind could be even less merciful to me. How much me would it take to really be dragged? To have no choice, so I'd go somewhere, even if not by my own volition. Then the many legs started moving. It was not a vision, but a skin crawl. Thousands of little legs moving in perfect coordination on my neck and my back and my thighs. Like an orchestrated shiver with a mind of its own. The structure that a moment ago had been a lone version of myself moved with the same intensity as the wind. The roar of buffeted cloth became a testimony to its vitality, and it was soon joined by an unexpected rhythm of bone against bone and little hard feet hitting the sand. I jolted awake, my eyes opening too quickly. I could almost see it there, the walking beast, its synchronized joints like a machine, moving with the wind, as the wind, leaving thousands of small footsteps behind. All thoughts of peace forgotten, I rushed to my atelier as well as I could, fighting the wall of air before the vision dissipated. Okay, 1,000 extra points if you realized what art I was talking about before any explanation. And just to be clear, this is 100% fictional. I made this up. But instead of just inventing art in my head, I drew inspiration from a real-world example. An artist I've been following and admiring for almost a decade now. Mr Jansen is the Dutch sculptor who created the strand beasts, and I think they look interesting and weird and alive. If you like all this art talk, have a look at his website. He has really cool videos, he has interesting ideas, it's cool artist, really cool artist. I always thought those crazy sculptures had something of boat, something of insect, and something of skeleton. So I decided to write this scene about a fictional artist, not Theo, fictional artist, getting a first glimpse of how a strand beast could look like in their minds. Of course, the medium of writing is inherently different from the animation of Blue Period, but I did my best to try to extract an emotional DNA and how those allegories feel like and how they hit you. I hope I did an okay job. And I do hope you enjoyed my strand beasts. And now for the part that everybody has been waiting for, let's talk competition. I am very excited to see your creative minds gladiating against each other in a battlefield of art-making metaphor. But first, a tiny itsy bitsy of flashback. I was wandering around the London Book Fair just a couple of months ago when I saw this stand with many comics about shows that I talk about here on the channel. So I stopped by, and despite being super busy that day, they hosted me and we had a fun and thoughtful conversation. A couple of emails later, Diamond Comics said they would be happy to send prizes for writing competitions I organize around the IPs they distribute. And since I was already writing this Blue Period episode before the London Book Fair, that was definitely the low-hanging fruit. And folks, have you seen those Blue Period mangas? They have this special treatment in the cover. They look absolutely gorgeous. The rules are easy. Just write and post the proposed scene from the exercise you just watched before this date, and you're already competing. I'll be holding 2 competitions with the same rules, one here on YouTube in the comment section of this video here that you're watching, and another one on Patreon. You will see a post there with directions for patrons of all tiers. Of course, because at least at the time of them recording this video, I only have 7 patrons, the chances there are much higher. Hint, hint. Hint. Dear patrons, please give preference to the competition over there rather than here, and just know that I'm planning more stuff like this in the future. Each competition will have its winner and prizes separately. Winning condition is whoever makes me experience the most emotion. Simple as that, subjective as that. For legal reasons, I must say out loud that I cannot guarantee that you'll get your prize, or else I can get into law repercussions, but this is just legality, okay? I believe you're gonna get your prize, alright? We understood here. As for prizes, I'm leaving this for Diamond Comics to decide. They will certainly send you a Blue Period manga, not sure of anything else. I am also legally forced to say they will not send you money. Sorry. I also need to legally disclose that they are not sending me any mangas or money. They did offer to send me the mangas, but I asked, could you send this to my people instead? I'm very new to this whole competition thing, but I am having a lot of fun. I just really enjoy giving you stuff. Like, I find immense pleasure in this. When I announce the winner this day here, I'm also gonna give instructions on how to contact me. One thing that I can guarantee is that you will receive a video message, so you're sure it's me. And in this video message, I am going to address you by username. Do not send your address, your home address or whatever. Do not send your address if you don't get this video message. I want you to be 100% sure it's me talking to you. I'm looking forward to your entries. I always look forward to your exercises. They make me so happy. But maybe today I'm a little bit more looking forward. I really enjoyed this thing. And a special thank you to my patrons, who are just so generous to support a tiny channel like mine. And I am so happy, I'm so proud to give you a little bit more. I'm trying to give you a little bit more, because it means the world that you're supporting this, that I want to do more and more in my life. Thank you so much. I am trying, and I will keep trying to bring you more and more stuff to see if I can provide more value to your lives. And a special thank you to Diamond Comics for sponsoring this prize. It's really cool that you're also engaging with my channel and collaborating with me. I've been so well treated in the emails with these people, and also when I was at the fair. Mwah! Lovely folks. And with that, I leave you today, folks. See you next time. Bye.